morning. We'll start the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors meeting. Ms. Showalter, roll call please.
Grant.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Leyland.
Here.
Take a moment of silence to reflect on today's actions. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1, agenda received as proposed or as amended.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All the same sign, motion carries. Public comments. This is time for anyone who would item to bring to the board, if not on today's agenda. Seeing none, we'll go to claims and payments. It's a resolution that the Board of Supervisors approves expenditures and that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue payments against the various settlements of such claims as well.
So moved.
Second.
Morning, everybody. Our total bill payment today will be $1,226,595.30. And several significant construction payments, so I'll run through that list quickly. A payment for $29,500.86 to Bergen Plumbing and Heating, and that was for the emergency grease trap repairs at the jail. We've already talked about that. We are making payment to Peters Construction for courthouse renovation, $118,085. Also, the Rapids reductions related to all the projects for $18,771.15. Division, $3,471. Conservation is paying for brush cutter attachment for their construction equipment for $15,300. Other ARPA fund, we're paying out $116,087.83 for Cedar Valley Nature Trail, and also county match for Cedar Valley Nature Trail, $36,243.61. We are also making a large payment from Consolidated Communications, refunds to all the participating governments. That total is $364,769.75. Everything appears to be in order today. Do you have any questions?
Was there a 60/40?
Yes. Sorry, neglected that one. $2,049.42 is the total for 60/40 today.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. This is a resolution. Ms. Showalter, please.
Leyland.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 4, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nichols, County Engineer. Just a brief update on the roads. After that little bit of snow we had overnight hours, the dump trucks, the snow plows were out, mainly sanding at the stop signs. And what that means is the snow plow is approaching the stop sign on a paved road. They slow down usually to about 30 miles an hour, about 100 to up to 200 feet before the stop sign. They turn on the sand spreader, and then they are putting on that sand salt combination onto the road. We do that on the paved road system. The motor graders would not have gone out this morning, so most likely on the way back in already. And then after lunch, we do expect a lot of the guys to be out cutting brush, and Griffin is going out with some of them. Our roadside biologist will be out with some of them cutting large. We have some large trees, a few large trees in the right of way that we are working on getting down in the next few days. Any questions at this time? Thank you.
Any others? All right.
Al, I had a question, or I think it's directed to Al. He is over around the corner.
Yep.
Regarding the sound system.
Yes.
Here, and where we were at with that. I know we were working with someone else on that, or working with the contractor on that.
Yep. We were trying to get them to come in this week, so we were trying to get them on Thursday, Friday. It takes them 2 days to do the testing. Tentatively, they have to push it back to the following Thursday, Friday. I do not believe we have a budget session on that Thursday, on the 22nd.
Yeah, correct.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, Thursday, so if that works, that's when they're gonna come back in and then, sorry, I couldn't actually hear you around the corner, so, yeah, case in point, that we needed the amplification part fixed, so.
I appreciate that. I was just thinking, the Zoom might work great, but in the room it was very quiet. I think
Yep.
someone was speaking and probably couldn't even hear well in the audio, so.
You got the,
that-
you know, the HVAC on too, so.
Yeah. Gotta have heat.
But no, tentatively next Thursday, Friday is what we have scheduled, so.
Thank you.
Alright. Item 5, minutes from the January 7th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 6, the consent agenda. Following items will be acted upon by a single resolution without separate discussion unless someone from the board or requests a specific item be considered separately.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is a resolution. Ms. Showalter.
Grant,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes. Item 7, resolution that the agreement to provide $150,000 to the Cedar Falls Community Schools for the Community Natatorium Project previously approved on August 22nd, 2023, be approved and direct the chair to sign as submitted by Michelle Weiner.
So moved.
Second. All right, you're gonna do some introductory or some comments on this?
Certainly, if you would like me to, I will. This is the agreement that the board approved some months ago. That if the Cedar Falls Jump-In Pool Group successfully obtained a statewide CAT grant, which requires county participation, that if they would get that, the county agreed to contribute $150,000 to the project. They were awarded that, I believe, back in April, and had contacted us. They're ready to move to the payment process. So Mike has worked on a contract, and hopefully that meets with what you're needing, and we'll get that sent to them so we can get them paid.
Well, I've just had questions as I did, I think, before when we talked about when we're asking them to show or secure all funding necessary and the things that they provide for that. Since this is a $21 million project, are we still expecting that type of response?
I think
from
the
all?
contract does say they have to provide us information, which I think they will have to provide me some kind of updated certification, because I don't, it's been a long time since they were here. I don't know, what the status is today, so we will request that they provide something.
I knew we had the difficulty with Gilbertville on that and
Yes.
understanding exactly what was needed between parties, and I just thought too, if there's a way we could simplify it or whatever, because I know, to me, I look at the CAT grants much different than some of the other funding that when we give to projects, but did we do this as well for the Waterloo project? The burns and, or the swimming pools and the splash pad, we gave them
They
50,000
provided
for the CAT.
us information. I don't know that we had a certification form necessarily, but they did provide us with all that information at that time. And that was, it actually issued that contract, I think. Can't remember if that contract was issued before I started or not, actually, but that was all kind of in the works as I came on board, so I don't quite remember all those details. But yes, we would try to be consistent now. The whole reason we're requiring that is all because of the state auditor's requirements. For a department, I was going through our prior audits, because they need to report that to their, granting authorities, I guess I'll call it, and they wanted to know what our audit findings have been over the past 5 years, so it was interesting. I will probably develop a table of that and maybe share it with the board at some point, but there were a couple of years in there where we were hearing audit comments because we were not requiring contracts for services when we do these kind of things. So I do think, unfortunately, it's a step we need to do. It holds us accountable to our taxpayers that we're doing this for the right reason, that we are providing, they're getting a service for it, that's why we're doing
Oh, I understand, yeah, and I like the fact that we have it in place, I just meant too, I know because of the difficulty we had in parties.
Yes, we had quite a difficult.
Very difficult, better consider it.
I would hope that's atypical, but we'll see.
We'll see, yeah, we'll see how
So-
fast they respond.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and a second on this item.
I'll just add that I'm just excited to see this project going forward. It's gonna be really great for not only young people in this community that will use it for tournaments and everything, but also the entire community to have another indoor swimming option that's open to everybody in the county. So, really great project.
And the ability to train, Lost Island continues to make their investment to have trained lifeguards
Yeah.
available, at not just Lost Island, but also at our public pools is really helpful, so.
Big group, like in the state even, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So resolution, Michelle?
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 8, other business is a resolution that the lowest responsible bid received from Wheeler Lumber, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, letting held January 7th, 2025 at 9:05 for project L3037-7307, bridge repair on Ordway Road in Blackhawk County with a total bid of $174,457.65 with engineer's estimate of $181,750. Be awarded and directed the chair to sign resolution authorizing the county engineer to sign the contract and to receive and place on file the contractor's bond certificate of insurance as recommended by Captain Nicholas, county engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Just to remind you all, this contract will replace the timber deck on Ordway Road Bridge that was closed last year. I would recommend that you award the bid to Wheeler. We did, as you know, we did open the bids last week and we received 2 bids. Wheeler Lumber was the low bid. We've gotten a lot of wood products from them over the years, so they're good products, so I'd recommend that you take the bid from them. And then we are going to do this deck replacement ourselves with our bridge crew, and then we're hoping to get this accomplished after planting, but before harvest, so sometime this summer, the bridge, we are anticipating it being reopened by next fall. So I recommend that you award it to Wheeler. Thank you.
This is a resolution. Michelle?
Leyland,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes. Item 9, work sessions. Discussion considering all aspects of FY 26 Blackhawk County budget. And we'll start with number 1, Mark.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting.
Okay.
Oh,
I'll write
it's technical. Okay.
So, my question to the board is, Gabby has her own PowerPoint, so do you prefer she display that and I will put up my documents that you have in front of you. Hopefully you all have them, if you don't, we'll use that. Everybody have them, they were on the.
Oh, they're on the table back
I'm
there.
sorry, I just was distracted before the meeting started.
That's my fault.
You lost at my office, it's okay, we will get you some, you'll have them.
I guess.
Technology's great until it's not.
I was gonna say, and whether we wanna see both or yours or hers or whatever, I guess we'll jump
Yep.
to the line. If we have questions, huh?
Yep, yep.
You can just wing it.
It's okay.
So.
Yes.
one more marketing and one more auditor here. I don't think they're all the same. So
There should be the extra step probably because they can
I
position
mean, I
and
know
making a
somebody's
set for
missing
them.
one. Here, I'll set them here.
Just excuse
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Gabby DeWitt, marketing coordinator, Blackhawk County. There we go. So you have it in front of you, but the purpose is fairly new, as new as our marketing department. But of course, working very hard to increase trust in the county services and local government, and also just kind of communicate more about our staff and what we do, and create some engagement. And some of the ways we do that is through those bullets, the promoting pride in identity, collaborative communication, engaging our stakeholders, ensuring transparency, answering questions, when we're asked, and demonstrating accountability. And some of the ways we've done that this year was through the rebrand and working with departments in as many ways as we can to show and demonstrate things that we're doing in the county. Finding community partners like cities and community organizations to partner with, communicating clearly to help people understand local government, and like I said, answering questions to increase trust and demonstrate accountability. And you have those statistics, I think, in front of you that I presented with my end of year presentation, but also 16 departments that we support through marketing, and approximately 400 staff received swag as part of the brand rollout last year, and about 200 staff received business cards and badges, and over 160 vehicles have been branded this past year. And the growth in our primary social media was 88%, and we're hoping to continue to increase that on all of our platforms. Sorry. So the changes to the budget, this is very new. The marketing department, as you know, is very new, and so when you look at my little percentages of change, it's like, wow, 100%, 100%, 100%. I asked Michelle, gosh, does every department have that big of a change? She's like, yeah, no. So I felt like it was important to have a slide that, just this time last year, we were developing a tiny little half-year budget for the marketing department. It was less than $3,000. And then we had a $9,000 brand rollout budget. So it was only $11,795. And then 3 months into my role, we created a budget for fiscal year 25. I still didn't really know very much what the year was going to hold. And so at that, we did about 24,000. And so this year, even though it's double, it's now after a full year of knowledge and kind of continuing on the momentum that we have in the marketing department, and hoping to continue to elevate the brand and messaging of Blackhawk County. Next. So when you look at the marketing table, budget table, some of the things that haven't changed are dues and membership, software, advertising and marketing. Some of the items that I'm not going to talk about very much today, but do have a change, are utilities and minor equipment. They both show 100% change. The utilities is my phone. It just wasn't on my budget last year, and now it is. Minor equipment, we did increase it, and that's equipment needs such as frames or signs, if we need signs for wayfinding, or like sign holders specifically, equipment for cameras, that sort of thing. So that would be the minor equipment. But the changes I'm going to talk about today are the ones that are listed on the screen: the training, travel, printing, outreach, professional services, and capital expense. So the training and increased by a little over 1,000, and that includes 2 learning opportunities. The TCU program, I have applied, waiting to hear probably in the next month on acceptance. But coming away from that, it's a 2-week program, one in July of this year, one in July of next year, and then a week in the middle of January. And we'll walk away with a strategic communication plan. And it's very timely because we're doing our strategic planning here for the county, and so to then tack on a communications plan and a crisis communications plan, I think will be a really good timing. So I'm hoping that follows through. And then 3CMA is a peer association group, Cities County Communication and Marketing Association. And that is an annual conference in the fall that I'm planning to go to. And the travel and mileage, that increases by 100% because we didn't have it in the budget last time. But I spent a lot of time, especially with the videos that we did this summer, driving my own vehicle or using the IT vehicle, which was fantastic. But that I didn't really have a line item to bill it to, so we added that in, and then that also includes the travel for the conferences that we've scheduled for. I do still have room in my budget this year, this fiscal year, for training, and I'm planning to attend an advanced PIO class in June. Oh no, oh, yeah, there we go. Printing, this is not new to my budget, but it is new to being its own line item. Before it was in miscellaneous supplies. And that's just for handouts, promotional items. I put some examples on the slide, not to scale. Lower one was the magnet we did for Washburn, and the upper one was when we were promoting the tax credits that people could sign up for. That was a hit at Juneteenth last year. A lot of people didn't know about it, and they really appreciated having some information. But just, you know, if we're doing internal printing and or having some printing done, just having a small line item for that. Next slide. The miscellaneous supplies and outreach, this line item increases by $3,300. The miscellaneous supplies and outreach line includes some of the same materials like stickers, translation of materials, branding needs. The difference in planning is being more intentional with going to events and parades. I've had a lot of departments say that they would like to be in parades, be more visible in the community. We've got some rebranded vehicles that I think is a good visible way to get out there, so that you don't need a ton of staff to attend if you have a vehicle that you're driving through, but the more the merrier. And it's a way to promote county services, especially coming out of strategic planning. We're hopefully going to have, you know, something that we want to promote coming out of our strategic planning, new vision, new mission, maybe values, something like that, and it would be a good visible way to get some information out to the community and also just be a part of every community that's in the county. And then signage, this line item was previously in the brand budget, and I just shifted it over to marketing budget. As I've said before, brand rollouts are a marathon, almost an ultra marathon, not a sprint. And so you're always coming across things that need to be rebranded. I mean, we've talked about the sign behind Tavis, like that's still something we're waiting to do. But since we're in strategic planning, we haven't done it yet. So this is just a line item to do some small signage changes around the county. Most signage is included in projects when they do something, like I'm sure Rory has it as part of the revamp of veterans and that sort of thing, but this would just be kind of miscellaneous signage that we need to have done. Okay, this is a new line item and it's a bigger one for me anyway. Professional services. The line item is $10,000, and just for when we need extra AV audiovisual support. As departments have started to realize the benefit of marketing and promotion, we're planning ahead better. We know things that are coming up, but it's nice if we can have some professional services available to us. That photo there is of the Pixel crew when we did a video for public health, but it's nice to have capacity in professional services. Also, some examples when this would be helpful is at Blackhawk County events to gather images, because when I was helping with Under the Harvest Moon, it was hard to gather images and also be a part of the event. Same thing with the ribbon cutting at the Cedar Valley Nature Trail. Would have been nice to have somebody there to also gather professional photos for us. And then also a wider use. I have an iPhone that I use to gather images, and so having professional services like this, it would be beneficial, better quality, more use. And I haven't decided, I need to work that out on whether it would be a retainer with one company or kind of a pay-as-you-go to see which would benefit the county the best and be the most efficient. And the capital expense is a phone, I'm sorry, not a phone, a camera, because I currently use a phone. The iPhone is amazing, but it is harder to get candid shots. It's harder to use it for things outside of social media. And so I'm working with Al to come up with a kit for a phone or a camera that will do both video and photos, and have a cinematic lens, also a zoom lens, tripod, and extra batteries, SD cards, that sort of thing. So that would be all inclusive in that. And just be able to give us more professional video needs for when we can't plan ahead. I think that picture, Kathy texted me on a Monday morning, hey, they're cutting rumble strips. So we went out, and the iPhone was great, but you had to be kind of close up, you can't zoom in, so. All right. Any questions that I can answer?
Just curious, the advertising marketing, does that include some social media?
Social media, yep. It could be, it kind of depends on what we come out with for strategic planning. Maybe it's some radio ads, maybe it's a print ad, something like that. But yeah, mostly digital advertising.
Gabby, you mentioned outreach handouts at Juneteenth last year.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, for anything that might be beneficial for people to receive that they might not otherwise know, would we disseminate info through email too? Would that be through you, through marketing, or perhaps through each respective department?
We could, we're talking about, website, ways to make our website more useful. There are like some notification things that people can sign up for, but we
Right.
don't currently have like a email newsletter that we send out right now. But certainly it's something, if that kind of it comes from that strategic planning process that we want to reach out more in a digital way, we certainly
Sure.
could. That most platforms like that, like a MailChimp or something like that, that does have a service fee, especially at that size.
Right.
So it'd be something that we might have to plan for and implement.
Gotcha. Like I say, it's been really exciting to watch the department and the work grow, so I think the budget has grown appropriately with it. So.
Yeah, I always say it was a weird thing to be a 23-year employee and find out all these things that the county did that I had no idea, so it's been a growth for all of us.
Magnify that by 400.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
Just internally, yeah.
Yes.
Can I put your statistics on the screen? I thought since this is new, it would be good for you to talk just about your statistics.
Yeah.
Since this is so brand new.
Yep, okay. So these are, I just pulled these out, I think from my end of the year presentation, but also kind of added to it. So 16 departments by my count, receiving branding support. The 164 vehicles branded, I think pretty much everyone is done. Social media accounts, we have 21 social media accounts, and during this past year, we keep saying me, came up, ordered or implemented a scheduling platform, Loomly, to better streamline the social media scheduling, and that has helped a lot. Our website users, we were just talking about this yesterday with the website, 171,000 total users in the year, and new users were 162,000. So that's a lot of people coming to the website. It's a really big opportunity to then get them to come back, because obviously it'd be kind of nice if it was about 50-50, that they're coming back on a regular basis, but maybe they're finding what they need and don't have to come back. But yeah, the new users were 162,000. And then the CGI video project, those videos are up on our website right now, and this next month is, I'm working on a plan to kind of get them more out into the community. So I do have some advertising money left in this year's budget, and that's one of the ways that I'll do that to promote those videos.
Do you have a goal, Gabby? You mentioned the 88% the increase in followers. Is there a goal you look at or a trend that maybe
Well,
some.
that is, the 88% is almost doubled. I'd like to see that again this
Double.
year if we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so many people rely on social media for some of their information. And so the more people that we have that are following us and coming to us for information, one of the statistics that we had in the end of year presentation was some of our pages that maybe have lower followers, they had much higher page visits. So people were coming to their page to check out for specific information. Maybe it was for road conditions or something going on for the veterans or for public health. And so being that voice of knowledge, being reputable in our whichever lane we're in, whether it's conservation or roads or whatever, is that much better. So letting people know and trust that we're a location they can come to for information.
And we're seeing that right now, right, in California with the fires, right, having a source of truth, and trusted information is incredibly important, because they're not only putting out literal fires, they're having to put out, well, the other kind of fires.
Sure.
Right, and it drains resources, and so for us to be investing at this time where we hopefully don't have real serious crisis, but in those moments where it does spike, if we're in more people's algorithm because of strategic investment in marketing, certainly puts us in a better spot to disseminate truth. Especially when, like you said, a lot of people get their information online, and when truth standards are eliminated from platform,
Exactly.
Facebook in particular, then they will hopefully come to us for facts.
Agreed.
On our website, are you having to make those changes, or are we fairly current now with some of the things that we?
You know, a website's like a rebrand. It's never completely done. I think every department has access to their own website, and then also I have helped. So with recorders, we redid some of the snowmobile licensing with, we just kind of created a table and made it more visually palatable in treasures with the motor vehicle fees and that sort of thing. So as people come to me for help, I'm more than willing to help, but also I believe most departments do also have their own access as well.
Thank you.
Gabby, on the website, so with each of the services drop down here,
Mhm.
do you handle all of these as far as, like, if you just scroll over, I don't know, emergency management, for example, do you handle?
So that's I'm still figuring that one out. Yes, so emergency management, I have helped them, not with their website, but I've helped them with like handouts and things before. They actually have a store on our online store that they can order emergency management. I don't go through every, and I haven't gone through every page on the website to see what all is on there, but more so departments have come to me and said, gosh, we really need to change around our snowmobile. There was a law that changed with snowmobile licensing, or changing how they reported on whether you can license your vehicle in another county. That was a new change, so I helped them update that page. So it's kind of, as people are asking, then we've gone in, and then when we did the rebrand, that was something we had to do through Civic Plus as far as like updating the colors and everything to match our brand.
Okay, I was just curious.
It is a lot. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Next up, auditor. Or Mr. Gibson.
I don't know who did the agenda, but making me sum our budget after the marketing director's not fair. For the record. Tim Jamison, I'm the systems real estate tax manager in the auditor's office. and I'm here to talk about the non-election side of our budget. The elections budget is its own animal, and I think Karen's gonna talk about that later. Don't have a PowerPoint for ours, but I'll just kind of give a quick overview of our office. We have 3 divisions, one being the elections. I think that's the one that most people associate with us, especially recently, and again, Karen will talk about that later. We also do accounts payable and payroll, providing financial services and claims processing to all the county departments and some external operations, like the assessor's office, consolidated communications, emergency management, solid waste commission. We also manage payroll operations for all county employees and those other agencies I mentioned. In calendar year '24, our staff processed 8,755 claims and issued more than 10,500 payroll payments. The other division of our office is real estate, which is my area, which is why I'll probably talk longer about it. We maintain property ownership records, and in the modern era, that includes digitally mapping those for people go to the Beacon website and see the maps of the parcels. Our plat room staff processed 4,667 real estate transfer documents last year. We also calculate all of the property tax bills that go out. That's based on the value set by the assessor's office, budgets adopted by you and other taxing authorities, and credits, exemptions, and rollback factors issued by the state. I like to say I don't actually decide how big your tax bill is. I'm just putting them together with all the other information that's out there, and then I let the treasurer send out the bills. So I've probably got the best step in that whole process. But this year we calculated tax bills for more than 75,000 real estate parcels in the county, so it's a bit of a chore. Some other things, we also clerk the board meetings and keep the minutes. We do have a limited number of licenses and permits that we handle, like liquor license, cigarette permits for the unincorporated areas. It's not a lot. So in terms of our budget this year, our key focus was to maintain adequate funding and resources for training and education. We're losing 80 years plus of experience this year with the retirement of Grant Veeder and longtime payroll specialist Kim Hewitt. Karen's moving into a new role and is going to be having to pick up a lot of additional information, and we're looking at probably 2 or 3 more hires in the very near future. So we want to make sure we have funding and other resources available to make sure that those people can get the education they need to do their jobs appropriately. With that said, I can move on to our budget. On the revenue side, we're just not a revenue generating department, so unless anybody really has any interest in talking about that, I'm gonna skip over it. On the expense side, not a lot of changes, but I'll focus on the ones that I think are important. We didn't ask for more training and education, but we were a little bit underspending it this year, but we'd really like to make sure we don't lose that 11,000 that we budgeted. We think that'll get us through, but cutting that, again, that's a big focus for us. Please don't cut our training and education. Moving on down, another big change, and actually to the positive, is the printing services and postage. I think, see, we're cutting $5,000 on the printing and $2,480 on the postage. That's all related to the budget property tax mailing that we have to do. Senate or House File 718 a couple years ago requires the auditor's office at county expense to mail notices to every taxpayer in the county. It's basically telling them what's been proposed for city, county, and school budgets, and when you can go to a public hearing and where you can go to a public hearing to talk about the property taxes. There's additional information that goes on that. But when we budgeted $36,300 for this fiscal year, we had no track record of what that was going to cost. It wound up costing us $26,700. So I did reduce what we were asking for to do that mailing next fiscal year. I didn't reduce it all the way down to what we spent because postage rates have been going up, and this is heavily dependent on what Postal Service charges us to mail those. We don't really have a choice, that's by code, we have to mail it, county expense, we can't go to the cities and the school districts and ask them to help pay for that, so. Beyond that, the only other, what I would consider a large change in here was on, software. That $3,900, previously wasn't budgeted. That is to, pay archivers to host our real estate transfer records. It was a great project that we were able to digitalize those 60 books of records, and now they're searchable, and anybody can go to the website and look up those transfer documents. But now that they're digital, we do have to have a site where people can go see them, and it's $3,900 is what I'm projecting. It's a little less than that this year, but it'll go up. So after that, I don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions.
On the mailing,
Mm-hmm.
so the 30,000 that we're budgeting for this year, is that right, between printing and mailing?
Right.
That is for one mailer, is there other mailings that are?
So our budget's a little bit consolidated here beyond divisions. The 28,600 of that postage. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, I've got 30,000 budgeted, and 28,600 is what I budgeted for our that budget property tax statement mailing. We do have other things we have to mail, and so there's accounts payable has a portion of that as well.
Most postage, you'll see when we review some of the general board supervision activities, we code it all in one place. But because this statement was new a couple of years ago, and we wanted to be sure that all of you understand this other unfunded mandate, right, from the state, we wanted to capture it separately so that we could easily describe the costs.
It's a nice mandated fee there,
Yeah.
of course.
Really wish that we could get the other taxing authorities to help pay for it, but they put it all on us.
No, we just thank the state for asking us to do it or making us do it.
Or just get rid of it, it's just a confusing.
Well, they did change it this year, it was confusing to a lot of people last year. Hopefully they'll be a little more used to it this year. We had a lot of people calling thinking we were asking for money, terrified about why we were sending them this because they'd never seen it before. It really did scare a lot of people, especially, people, older residents that had been really used to the old system, and all of a sudden they get this mailing and telling them their taxes were going up, or it was, almost all of the phone calls I got were people saying, what the heck is this? It wasn't, they weren't asking for more information, they were scared. Hoping that kind of goes away.
Idea of how many pieces of mail was it?
40, I think it was about 43,000 mail, somewhere in that neighborhood. I have that, I just. So I don't know if you wanted to go to elections first, or?
We're gonna jump to elections.
Are you guys okay if I just do it from here?
Yep. Thanks, Tim.
First, I just wanna thank Tim for his work on the auditor budget. As you guys are all aware, most of our budget work is done in December, so it was done before I took office, so thank you, Tim, for doing the auditor piece. And before I jump into the elections, I just wanna thank Gabby again. As you can see in our purpose statement, one of the things that we try to highlight with any of the work that we do at the auditor's office is transparency. And so I just have to give a lot of kudos to Gabby. We're very robust on social media. In regards to elections, we highlighted all of our processes. So for example, Gabby came over and took videos of our public test of delivering equipment. So really striving to have transparency in elections. So I really appreciate the work that you did. We are very, very robust, and I think that was very helpful to get the accurate information out to voters. So jumping into the elections budget, I will start by saying this. Revenue's going up and operating expenses are going down. How about that? So it's a little bit different for elections, even year, fiscal years. So if you wanna look at FY '26, you really should go back and look at FY '24 to have a comparison in elections, and then odd fiscal years again. So when we went through the FY '25, it really is gonna look more similar to FY '23. And just to explain that, so coming into FY '26, this will cover our combined city school election, and the primary election is what we have in FY and even fiscal years. So 2 elections, even though the operating expenses will go down, and it's because, you know, if you go back to FY '25, that covered the presidential election. So operating expenses overall go down a little bit, and that's just because of the sheer volume in comparison to a presidential election. The reason why revenue will go up, just as a reminder, when we administer city and school elections, we get reimbursed for that. So that's really great for the county. So you can see that 128,000 in revenue under elections, and that's because we'll get reimbursed for the city school election. If you look at our operating expenses, again, you're gonna see that they're gonna go down a little bit, and again, that's just for sheer volume. We also have a couple of projects that will be done this fiscal year that don't need to be renewed. So for example, we're upgrading the software and hardware for all of our voting machine equipment. That will still happen yet this spring. You can see that printing, postage, all, and contracted office expense, those went down significantly, and again, it's the sheer volume. We're not sending as many absentee ballots out. And for these elections, you can already see the voting booths out in the hallway for this upcoming special election. For city, school, and primary elections, we will not be doing the voting down in the basement like we did with the general election. Our office can handle the volume of voters that come for those elections, so no need to hire all the extra precinct workers to do all of that voting downstairs, so don't need that extra expense. One thing I do, there's a couple of changes that I would like to highlight for elections. Now that I am moving into the county auditor role, this is a really good opportunity to restructure our elections department just a bit. I'm not asking for any more staff. We can all still handle the volume. What I have noticed over just the course of my 8.5 years in elections is that we have really become very IT driven in elections. We're talking about, you know, we have to prep and prepare and test 200 laptops for each election, and that doesn't just happen right before election. We have to maintain those with updates throughout the year. And then all of our voting machine equipment is also takes a lot of prep and testing as well. We have 140 pieces of voting machine equipment that we have to, like I said, prepare and test. So we just have become really technologically driven in elections. Just to give you a sense of that, I really can't believe I'm even saying this out loud, but when I started in 2016, we were still operating off paper registers for elections. So it's really, I can't believe that, especially with all the election law changes. So I'm really happy that we're using all electronic poll books, but we just have become, you know, IT has been really, really great in helping us. But I think Al would even attest that it's too much for the IT department to handle all of the things that we do in elections. And so what I'm proposing is, right now we currently have an election specialist, and one of those election specialists is going to move into my role as elections manager. And so with that vacancy, I would like to create an election technician position instead. And really, you know, I'm lucky that I have somebody on staff that has that background. But if he were to leave for whatever reason, I really want to make sure that we have a specific role that has that technology background. The good news is you will see that it won't change our it won't even increase our salaries, and that's because, probably the biggest reason is me moving into the auditor role, so we, free up a little bit of funds to do that. But I think moving forward, that would just be really valuable and beneficial to have that role within elections, especially when it's just a staff of 3 and how much is IT driven. Any questions on that position before I move forward?
It seems to make sense.
What did you call that position again, technician?
Yeah, so right now it's an election specialist, and I like to do election technician. That would go up. I should have added, I have already had lots of conversation with Amanda and Michelle, so I'm not just throwing that out there today, but we have talked about that will go up in the GS scale.
So it's still union, so just wanna clarify, and thank you, Karen, you covered that really well. So, if you would, move forward, we kinda are looking for approval from the board to go to the table with the union to basically negotiate where this position should be with Unit 1. So, right now it doesn't exist. We do have technician roles that, like she said, would probably go up 2-3 pay grades, but we'd have to go to the table to do that. And, so that's what we'd be looking for, to do that this spring, in preparation to have this position for July 1, right? Maybe earlier.
I with your guys' blessing, because of what we have coming up, again, we have the upgrade to all of our voting machine equipment. I'm gonna talk about laptops here with capital. I would love to be able to start them April 1 if possible, which I think would still be okay because we are freeing up those funds with me moving into auditor. Or we would essentially be down 1 position, and I don't need to replace that right now. I'd rather go through this process and get what the department really needs, and the 3 of us can handle it in the meantime.
Similar, yeah, so that's how we would pitch that though to the union, so it's not, it would still be a union position, it's just an upgrade and one that needs to meet the needs that have changed over the last decade.
You said you thought 2 or 3 grades.
Most likely, we have map maintenance technicians that are
Yes.
a little bit higher there, actually in the auditor's office, so expected rank there. Yeah, so, but we'll discuss that with the union if the board's in support of it.
Thanks, Amanda. The only other thing just to highlight on here, I talked about not hiring the extra precinct workers to handle all the voting down the basement. That also means I don't need all the additional part-time election clerks that you saw last fall. You can see on there that the election clerk line item is zeroed out. I don't foresee that I would need their help unless, we had a major special election pop up that was a shortened time frame. So you'll just see a lead election clerk that I'll bring in for a few days before each of the 2 elections that we have. We do need our voting machine techs. They're the ones that do all the public testing and deliver and pick up all the voting machine equipment. So that doesn't go away. We will have all 56 locations open for both city, school, and primary elections. So I still need them to do their work, but you won't see the extra part-time people in the office like we saw last fall. I always like presenting in even fiscal years.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to talk about that is in our capital budget, Al and I and Michelle talked about this in budget time last year. And Al is probably more equipped to explain the need for all new laptops, but when I talk about all new laptops, our electronic poll books, Al's been talking to me about this for 2 years, that I should really replace them all, but I was just trying to really push to get through another election. It's difficult. Yes, they are, I think, 2018, so they are old, but I'm also cognizant that I'm not using them every day. But they're really slowing down because the hard drive is so old. So we are needing to replace them. One of the things that I would like to do, before we replace them all, I think that this is a good opportunity and would be honestly a disservice if we did not do this. So right now, we are with Precinct Atlas as our electronic full book vendor. And it's been great. I don't have any issues, but I think this would be a great opportunity to just do some demos with some other vendors to make sure before we purchase this large of an amount, you know, once we purchase these, then I know I'm committed to Precinct Atlas. So this spring, I would like to do some other demos with some electronic poll book vendors, just to make sure for our county that we're using the best of the best. So I actually have those demos. They're gonna be scheduled in March. And our next election will be city school in November. So I do believe you're gonna be better to answer this. I do believe that we would have to order them probably July 1st. There's a lot of prepping that needs to be done on all of those laptops. Or if we were to go with another vendor, we gotta give us some time to prepare them and test them before we use them.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the vendor you go with. Some vendors use laptops, some use iPads. If we do go with a vendor that uses iPads, won't be as long of a setup time period. But with Windows, we can every single one of them and prep them and secure them prior to handing them off, and then they do their other part to have it work with full book software.
And when we, the last time we bought new laptops, Precinct Atlas was pretty much the end-all be-all for electronic full book programs in the state. But there's a couple of, one pretty new one I'm interested to see. Our voting machine equipment vendor now also has a full book, so I'm just curious to see how those would communicate. And then 10X has really made a huge push in the state. There's a lot of bigger counties that are using the 10X program. So I just think before we I don't think it would be wise to just go down the easy route and just replace them all. I think this is a good opportunity to see what else is out there.
What was the number you said you'd be replacing?
Roughly 200. And so the budget, that capital budget, we increased by a little bit because we knew we wanted to explore these other vendors. We don't really have a good cost yet, but I'm hoping since I'm doing those demos in March, I can have a better sense of cost.
We were trying to keep the cost down, and I was speccing out laptops that weren't as powerful as our standard issued laptop, knowing that we have to replace potentially 200 plus of them, so the price does get up there. Hopefully, you know, when we get to that point, there could be some volume discount or something like that. So.
And we, just to give you a little history, because this has been brought up before, we have tried and talked about doing a rotation with our laptops, but that gets really difficult because at one point we had 3 different laptops, 2 different printers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when our precinct workers, who are only doing this a couple times a year, and they're using this equipment out at the polling location, it's kind of difficult for us in the office to administer and troubleshoot issues, because we gotta know what style of laptop we have, what kind of printer. So for us to be able to best serve all of our precincts, it is best when they're all using the same equipment. And so that's why we would like to replace them all at once instead of doing the rotation, but certainly, you know, whatever you guys prefer will make work.
That's what I was gonna ask you about, so that you answered my question.
Yeah, we tried it. It was really good in theory, and then because not everything is available, and so technology changes so much, and so when we were doing the rotation, it would be a brand new laptop, and it just made extra work for our office when it was trying to we had to keep track of what every polling location had to be able to troubleshoot, and it wasn't ideal.
Currently, we have 2 different brand laptops.
Yeah, we were able to recycle a third one.
Yeah, so an IT standardization is huge, you know, for efficiency and convenience. Just for example, if she has 2 different laptops, you have 2 different chargers. So it's those extra little logistics to add some time and complexity to the process.
Obviously, this year, we'd be purchasing all new. I understand the the thought process behind the rotation,
Mhm.
right, it honestly helps us on the budget side
Mhm.
to be able to plan, but can we look at in future years, just having a fund where we allocate X amount of dollars into said fund, knowing that the replacement is going to come in 5 years?
So a couple of things with that. We kind of are doing that with our overall capital.
Mhm.
So while you might do 100% of one department,
Fair.
you know, you'll,
Yep.
what I hope to do, my plan is we substitute others. Now, the interesting thing about these laptops, if you look at the bottom line for the elections budget, it's still going down because we're in an even year. So quite honestly, in terms of budgeting, if we can continue to rotate these about, I'm gonna say 6 years instead of Al's 5. But if we could keep on that rotation, you won't even have a wide fluctuation in their budget.
Yep.
So I think there's ways to allow them to use consistent technology and make it easier for all those volunteers. And we'll do our rotation by how we handle other pieces of the capital program. Oops.
We are not planning to purchase this yet, but I will continue. I think the last 2 years, I have brought this up during budget time because it's such a significant expense. The life expectancy of our voting machine equipment is 10 years. We did purchase that in February of 2016. So we're coming up on that 10 years, and that is a significant amount. That purchase price in 2016 was $650,000. I guarantee you that's gone up. So just another reminder that that's coming due here in a year or two. And certainly as we get closer, so next budget cycle, I definitely would have a better number for you on what that looks like.
Have we had any kind of maintenance costs or repair costs?
We have, but thankfully that's all included in our annual maintenance contract with them. So I have started seeing the wear on those machines. We have a lot more ballot jams. We have a lot more having to go out and the scanner, so our ballots read front and back. We've had to go out and troubleshoot that by cleaning them a little bit more. I would say in the last 2 years, definitely in this last fall election, definitely I'm starting to see the wear and tear on those machines. Not that they're not working, but we're having to go out and troubleshoot them a whole lot more than I did a few years ago. So I would anticipate that when we hit that 10, we'll be ready to replace that equipment.
So that 650 number is from like maybe the last two years ago even?
That is from when we purchased it in 2016.
Okay.
So I don't know what that number is, but I guarantee it's not gonna be that.
Closer.
I wonder if we want to look into updating that now, because if we purchase them sometime in 26, maybe then you'd be ready for your 26.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go out and get some bids on, just to give you a sense of what that number is, no problem.
Make it a more
Yep.
realistic number.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And we also, I just.
Yeah.
Photocopier that's listed on there, anything about that?
Tim, do you wanna talk about the copier and the plat room printer?
Oh, which, the one for 2027 or?
There's like, the copier
The
is.
26.
Is
There's one in
26.
Right,
Yeah.
that was put in last year, and I think we were directed or told that with life expectancy of those, that we needed to have a 5-year replacement on that large copy machine, which is why that was in there. Since we've been disjointed and the copier is up in the courtroom on the 4th floor, I use it a little less frequently than I used to, but it's our heavy-duty copier, it's the only scanner that our office has. And I will say, at least personally, I've been doing everything I can to reduce the use of paper, but that increases the use of scanning because you need to have digital records then. So It's an important piece of equipment. It got a little rattled, when we moved it from down here upstairs. It took a while to get it working again. I'm a little concerned that when we move it back down here, which hopefully will be soon, that it's gonna get jostled and rattled again. But, as of now, I can still print and scan on it, but, again, I'll let Al talk about the 5 years.
I just want to add, so copier, generally life expectancy for most technology is roughly 5 years. Copiers can go longer than 5 years. How we determine the end of life on a copier is if it no longer, if it either is mechanically broken or no longer receives a security firmware update. I would have to verify that on that model just to make sure that hasn't happened, but it probably is new enough that we might be able to extend it a few more years. So just wanted to put that out there.
So both of those items would not be in 26 then, we'd just put them in the future for like 27? Is that what we're thinking or no? That's what you're suggesting, okay.
Yeah, I think as a department, the only one for this fiscal year would be those.
Alright, the last thing I was going to maybe put up here is a tentative schedule for at least the rest of January. Well, actually, we have one more thing that I'm trying to forget. Tim's gonna talk about township compensation. I apologize.
Both are
my fault.
Real,
So-
before you start,
Hang on.
something just came to mind. If that printer goes into a complete failure, what's the contingency plan as far as of right now?
We'll probably be bothering the engineering department for a long time and using their printer. I guess that would be it,
Okay.
utilizing other available printers, trying to find scanners. We still have a maintenance agreement, so, frankly, when it got off kilter, when we moved it upstairs, they came in and took care of that. You know, has to be very careful when we move it back down, but, if it does have issues again, I'm sure we'll be able to take care of it under the maintenance agreement unless it's, severe, but again, hopefully they'll be careful.
If there's an emergency, we can find a way to.
Thank you.
So township trustee and clerk compensation, and I just wanna make it, first of all, why am I talking about this? The township clerks and trustees do not work for the auditor's office. Frankly, they don't work for any county office. They're elected officials, they're their own people. But by code, this board sets their compensation level and the county pays them out of the rural fund. I work with them very closely, with the township clerks and trustees when they set their budgets and turning in annual financial reports. When they have issues, that they are trying to resolve, they'll reach out to me and I'll try to get them to the right person. Mike's their legal counsel. So we're kind of intertwined with them, that they are their own governments. Because they don't work for anyone, I don't think anyone ever comes in and asks about their pay or presents that to you. I think it's been a very long time, decades, since it was even discussed here. They don't come to me asking for pay raises. Really don't hear that. Occasionally I've heard a trustee ask if they could pay their clerks more for the work that the clerks were doing. About a month ago, or less than a month ago, when one of the trustees came in to sign their oath of office after re-election, he once again asked me about getting a little extra compensation for the clerk. I told him it's not I can't do that, go down and talk to the board office. I think he went down and talked to Linda. Linda talked to me, and so I decided to pull together some information to present this to you on what they're currently getting. Okay, so just a real quick overview of township government. We have 17 township governments in the county. There's a list of them there. They represent the unincorporated areas. Townships technically are within city limits too, but when they're in the city limits, they don't necessitate a government. So they only represent the unincorporated areas. In fact, there's an 18th township called Waterloo Township that exists, but it's fully incorporated within Waterloo and Cedar Falls city limits, so they don't have a government, per se. Next, primary township duties. The number one thing that they do is negotiate and contract for fire and ambulance services in the unincorporated areas. We have one township, Pointer, that has 4 different contracts. They're with Raymond, Dunkerton, Gilbertville, and LaPorte City Fire Departments all respond. So they have 4 contracts that they have to negotiate with those rural fire departments, those municipal fire departments to respond to that. Many of them have cemeteries, a couple don't, one of them has 4. They're responsible, some of them are active cemeteries with openings and closings, but at the very least, they have to mow and maintain those, and so they pay somebody to do that. Very rarely happens, but they also mediate property disputes in the rural area. It's called fence viewing. The fences go into pot, somebody needs to fix it, they go out and decide which side of who repairs what portion of that fence. And then the other thing they do is establish budgets for their townships and tax rates for their townships. So if you live in the unincorporated area, you'll have a line on your tax bill that says township, like Barclay or Dunkerton Township. And that's what pays for mostly for the fire departments. I mean, that's 95% of what their expenses are. Township officials, each township has a 3-member board of trustees and a township clerk. All 68 of these township officials in Blackhawk County are elected to 4-year terms. By code, the Board of Supervisors sets their pay rates, and the compensation for that comes from the county's rural fund, from general supervision, rural fund, yes. There has not been an outcry from the township officials, but again, I have had some trustees ask about the clerks. Current rate of pay is $11 per diem. So every time they have a meeting, which is typically 3 to 4 times a year, they can turn in a timesheet and get paid $11 minus federal taxes. The board voted to set that in January of 2000, and at that point it raised the pay from $4.75 an hour to $11 per diem. And in reading the minutes of that meeting, the idea was that they thought a meeting was 2 hours, minimum wage had gone from $4.75 to $5.15. 2-hour meeting, that's $10.30, they rounded it up to 11. So that has not changed in 25 years, and again, I don't even think it's been discussed here. So, fewer than 1 in 4 of our township officials actually turn in timesheets. I have my suppositions as to why that is. I think a lot of them just consider it volunteer service, and that's great. But if you want to get paid, first you have to become a county employee. That means you have to fill out an I-9, state W-4, federal W-4, direct deposit form, get 2 forms of ID, come to the Blackhawk County Courthouse during working hours, and sign up to be an employee. And after all that work, if you're driving in from Fairbank or LaPorte City, you can turn in a timesheet 3 times a year for $11. So honestly, I think they just don't, because it's not worth their time. I did some comparison. I took the 10 most populous counties to show how we compare for township pay. And you can see at the top, Pottawatomie County pays pretty well, $50 a meeting, and the clerks get $50 per month to do the paperwork that they do. You can slide back down. I showed this to my wife, and she said, well, Story County's below you. I'm like, well, Story County's $10 per hour, so if we're going a 2-hour meeting, then they're actually getting 20, and we're paying 11. So that's how we compare with the larger counties. I also looked at the counties around us. Quick note, I mean, we like to compare ourselves to the larger counties, but I would argue that a township in rural Blackhawk County is no different than a township in rural Tama County. They're not any bigger than that township because we're not talking about including city populations, it's just the rural area. So if you look at our surrounding counties, Grundy's $50 per meeting, Fayette does 20 a meeting, and the clerks get some hourly compensation for their bookkeeping duties. Again, we don't really compare very well with the surrounding ones. Some considerations if you do want to do something with this, and real quick, I don't wanna say that I'm advocating for this, but when I look at this, and present this, it's hard to sound like I'm not advocating, right? But some considerations if you do wanna do something with the pay, and the first one is, should our clerks get any extra compensation for their bookkeeping duties? In addition to going to the meetings and keeping the minutes, they also write all the checks and balance the bank accounts. They receipt the monthly property tax payments they get from the treasurer's office. They're the ones who prepare the budget documents and the annual financial reports. They're also the primary contact point for townships. When someone calls me saying, who do I talk to about the Pointer Township Cemetery? I'm sending them to the clerk. If we were concerned about, if we went up to $50 per meeting, we're concerned about how much that would actually cost the county, I think it would be fair to limit the number of meetings. A lot of the counties that I showed you before will say, okay, we'll give you $50 a meeting, but you only can turn in a timesheet for 4 meetings. If you have a need for a 5th meeting, you can come to the board and ask if they'll pay for it, or you can just do it on your own. Most of our townships meet 3 times a year, unless there's some special situations that necessitate more, but you could put a cap on, like 3, we'll pay X amount per meeting, but only 3. The other thing is I think as you noticed before, some people pay hourly, some people pay per diem like we do, some of them pay by salary. I'm gonna make the argument that I think per diem is better for us, although that doesn't mean we couldn't do the others, and I'll tell you why, and I'm not gonna read this whole chart. So, township trustees and clerks can be eligible for IPERS if, and I don't know that any of them sign up at $11 a meeting, but we have elected township officials, so that top section. And when a township clerk gets elected, we ask them to sign an IPERS declination form to decline IPERS. If they don't do that, then they need to get set up as a county employee, and we have to take the IPERS payments and contribute the IPERS payments to their check. Again, that for the amount of money we're paying, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, and so all of them always decline. Trustees, if we paid them anything but per diem, they would also have to sign the IPERS declination forms. Again, maybe that's not a big deal, it's just some extra paperwork they'd have to do. The real problem comes in with the appointed, and again, ours are elected, but if anybody resigns or passes away in the middle of their term, their position is filled through appointment by the other township trustees. And if we appoint them and we're not paying them per diem, the IPERS is mandatory for the trustees. And I don't think, my goal is to keep these people active and interested and not wanting to leave, and the less paperwork we throw at them for things like that, the better. Again, it can be done, it's not the end of the world, but if we have a choice, that's my argument, to keep it at per diem and not go hourly. Next slide. So we budget $500 a year in general supervision to pay for township pay, and as you can see, we've never even spent that. Last year, we spent $190, and again, that's because they're just not turning in timesheets or not signing up to be employees. If we increase that pay, maybe that would encourage more of them to sign up, so we wouldn't require them to sign up, but I think if it was more attractive, more of them would sign up, so we probably have a larger percentage of our budget used for whatever we set. Then the next one, these are just some options, these aren't all your options, I just wanted to throw some examples out to show you how much this would cost. If we went $50 per diem, and limited it up to 4 meetings annually, and all 68 of our township officials signed up to be employees, turned in timesheets, and went to 4 meetings, the cost would be $13,600. Again, that's maximum that it would cost. I put $20 per diem And the reason I used 20, because it put us more in the mid-range of some of those other counties. Also, if you took $11 per diem and gave them 2.5% raises since the year 2000, it would be about $20 right now. But if it was $20 per diem, and then I threw in $20 a month for the township clerks for the extra duties they do, and everybody utilized every one of those, we would be looking at $9,520. We left it at $11 per diem, plus $11 for the clerks, just kept the same per diem, but allowed the clerks to do once a month. For paperwork, we're at $5,200. I will note, if at our current $11 per diem, if everybody turned in the timesheet 4 times a year for everything, we're at $3,000. We're only budgeting $500, but I mean, we're on the hook out there for close to $3,000 if they actually turned everything in. So, that said, that's all the information I had on that, unless you had any questions, and,
Can I add something else on top of that? I wonder too, I mean, it's crazy how much time I spend on trying to get these folks to get their name on the ballot. Like, more time spent with them than county, state, elected. So I want, and some of these guys have been serving 10,
I'm super
20.
disappointed. I'm losing a longtime clerk who does great work. He's the first one to turn in his budget every year, and he's moving to Waverly, and I'm super bummed.
We don't get a lot of interest, is my point. And Tim, just from when we talk about township clerks and trustees, it's difficult for me to get them on the ballot, and then it's also very difficult for Tim to get them to submit budgets. So you're spending a lot of time trying to get this
There are
information.
some. I think it's just really hard when I know that somebody's not getting paid for the job they're doing. And again, I want to step back, because some of these folks do get on the ballot every year, and they all do a great job once they get on there. I don't want anybody to think that I'm bad-mouthing any of our township officials, but you know, when you're elected to a position because you got one write-in vote from the guy across the road, and you grudgingly agree to do it, and at the best, if you turn in all your paperwork, you can get about $30 a year and pay for it. It's really hard for me to call up and say, hey, Tavis, where's your budget? You know, get that in. It's hard to crack down on those things in those situations. So,
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that would help. We don't know, but I'm just wondering if
No,
we get more
I think-
interest and that they would, and it's not taking it seriously, because I agree with Tim. They're really, really good, and I'm sure their lives are very busy, but I'm wondering if it might move up the priority list if we pay accordingly.
It seemed like I say, the gentleman that came in was very humble, and he was really just looking for the clerk, and it wasn't at all for the trustees. And you mentioned there is the one township that has the 4 cemeteries, so a little bit more work than the typical. But when I met with Tim, it was really because I thought when it had been so long since anything had been done, it was like, we look at how hard it is to replace people and to entice them, and we had this that hadn't happened in 25 years, so, and even then, it was pretty.
What happens if they all decide we're done? Then do we absorb that workload?
two things. One, that's happening in some counties across the state. I mean, the auditors talk, and some counties are having a very difficult time finding people. I don't have all the information with me right now, but it is possible to go from elected township officials to appointed township officials. And some counties have a mix. They'll have some townships with elected officials and some townships with appointed officials. If a township, if you just couldn't get anybody to run or anybody to agree to take those positions, I would assume that we could try to make those into an appointed position. There's a whole process. If you guys were to decide, we're just gonna appoint all of our township officials, the townships can have a reverse petition to put it on the ballot and say, no, we're gonna keep our own government, and vote to keep their own government. So, again, I don't wanna get too the weeds on that, because I don't have all that information in front of me, but it is possible to have appointed township clerks and trustees.
If everybody left, it is a code requirement that the board appoints.
So in essence, somebody being voluntold, kind of.
Yeah, Since Tim brought it up, one of the things, that I would love to see happen is the board to appoint versus elected. Because the amount of time, like I said, that we spend trying to get them on the ballot, this can be a much bigger discussion, but if we were to do that, it would be more where we would present you a panel of people. It's not, not asking the board to go out and try to find these people. Between Tim and I, we would work with the township, get a list of names to present. But
They
that's a
did
bigger
change,
conversation.
the state recognizes it's getting harder to keep some of these people engaged at the township government level. And, they did make it a little easier, was it a couple years ago? It used to be that in order to be, a township clerk, you had to live in the township. But if you lived in the city of Waterloo, but you were in East Waterloo Township, you could be the clerk. The clerk didn't have to live in the unincorporated area, you just had to be in the township. But the trustees all had to be in the unincorporated area of the township. That changed, so now you can have trustees that live in the city. So if you were in Bennington Township, you could live in Dunkerton. So they've tried to make it a little easier to find people to do these, but, so again, I guess my point was the state recognizes that this is getting a little more difficult.
And every general election is when they're on the ballot, they're staggered terms. And inevitably, even though with the amount of reminders that we do, inevitably, there is at least a dozen where there's no candidate on the ballot, and then they'll win by write-in. If we were, this again would need to be more conversation, but if we went towards that appointment process, what happens is it does go on the ballot, and then those voters of that township get to vote whether they want them appointed or not, which is why you have counties that have mixed, because it's not an all or nothing, it's by township, and so it can be a multi-year process to get everybody appointed, but definitely something to think about.
Into the future. In the meantime, it seemed like an appropriate time when he brought this up, this issue in December, and it was kind of perfect timing for the budget, and us to at least consider it if it's something that we entertain.
I mean, it may be better conversation in context with the rural budget,
Yeah.
since that's where the funding comes from, but I just wanted to get the information out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'd like to see us be able to hopefully land in the 40 to 50 per diem, but understand we need to see how it's gonna impact the levy, that, every little bit counts as we're.
Those as we get closer to those levy caps.
Yeah.
We've been under it for rural, and I don't know what it looks like yet this year, we're still working through the sheriff, the largest part of that budget.
And I get the desire to appoint, but I guess philosophically, I'd rather leave the decision with the people, and see if adjusting the pay alleviates some of those problems, but I get it, it's.
Well, some of those aren't problems, really.
Yeah, again, our last election, most of they're on, it's a rotating thing, so this past general election, we had only trustees, and the next general election, there'll be the third trustee and the clerk. And so this general election with the trustees, I feel like we had almost there were like 2 vacant ones that were write-in.
Oh, there are way more than that.
Was there more than that? Okay. Well, they do get together and talk, so, I think even some of those where they forgot to file their papers, but were still willing to do it, got 3 people to vote for them, which is about all you need if you're gonna do it by write-in, so,
The difference is that the write-ins accepted, but there were probably about a dozen that didn't have a candidate listed on the ballot.
Well, I think we had the death of Larry Walters, and so they were trying to find someone. And the paperwork thing was just kind of, they thought they just.
we had a real problem with one township where I wasn't here, I don't know if the clerk quit or what happened, but they lost their clerk and didn't replace them right away. And that meant that they weren't filing their paperwork, and so we had to start withholding their property tax receipts. And finally, they came in, and one of the trustees agreed to get the bank situation and their budget stuff in order. He did that for a while, then we had a special election, and somebody won by write-in and agreed to do it. And he frankly did a great job, but after a year said he didn't want to do it anymore, so he wrote in the name of the guy across the street. who then got it, and he's doing a great job now too. I hope he stays, but, you know, it's just a weird situation to have that going on. A little more consistency would be better, because there's a learning curve with that, so.
And it probably feels like most of them are full. I mean, we're talking about 60 races that were on the ballot. So when I see a dozen,
Thank you. I asked him to just put some information together to present to the board. He did great with the presentation.
I don't wanna,
Provided even more.
I know I sound like I'm advocating for it, but it's the numbers that are at.
See, you're the one that works up close and personal with it, sees them and how much work they're doing and how much. Obviously, we don't to the board, I don't think it's even come up for us.
Thanks.
And they've not brought it to our attention, so thank you.
Okay, one last. We'll see if I can get it up here. For
Just step out for just a moment.
This'll just take.
And Tim, would you send the board that presentation
Absolutely,
to
yeah,
them?
as soon as I get back.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Thing is just easy to work with.
When it comes back, you're going. Send this to us too.
What was that?
You'll send this to us, right? You don't have to write it.
I can. Some of these, this is definitely a tentative schedule, so we're still working through details with some of the departments. And we think we're gonna be able to handle these deadlines, but the treasurer I may need to move, cause I'm still trying to figure out ARPA cash balances basically, to talk about interest revenue, so that may need to slide. But hopefully we can get the others on the dates mentioned. Right, we're ready, I just wanted to talk about tentative schedule, at least for the rest of January. So next and I should have put the day of the week on here, didn't think about that. So next Tuesday, we hope to at least cover conservation and human resources. The other two I'm not certain about yet, but we will at least get the first two. Then on Wednesday, so the January 22nd is a Wednesday, not your normal meeting time. But I think we will have enough, be able to cover enough departments to have the 2 hours that you requested. We will have roads and health, and then I'm hoping the sheriff's department, but we'll slide something around to make sure we get that. Then the following Tuesday, the 28th, we plan to have building maintenance. Hopefully the attorney, his schedule's always a little difficult on the Tuesday and Wednesday combination, so hopefully we'll not have a trial on the 28th, and then he'll be able to attend here. Then I don't have a set schedule yet beyond that, but some of the topics that I know we need to cover during the month of February, and some of these things can potentially slide up into January. I'm waiting to hear back from the rural libraries, for example. I did request this year that they provide me their statistics now, which I received last night. So we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at when we discuss that. that was kind of an unpleasant surprise last summer that one of them, our contract, which was negotiated, I'm not even certain how many years ago, but the contract for the county to contribute, one of their requirements is that our contribution is limited to 50% of what they put into their own library. And we had one community that had reduced their library budget below that, and that situation is continuing, by the way.
Oh,
But-
is it? Oh,
yes.
Did they correct that?
No, well, probably didn't have time yet because we, obviously the 25 statistics aren't done yet, right? We're not through the year. So we're using 24 to set our 26 budget commitments, so hopefully they will correct it for 27, but I know cities, it's not easy to add to their budgets right now with all this state legislation, so whether they'll be able to or not, I don't know.
Be interesting to ask them though and see if they're planning on doing that for the next year.
Yes, you certainly could do that, yes.
Okay.
So, these are just some of the topics I think we want to talk about. I have a couple of questions. Would you like to have your planning staff come again? They did come and speak with you last year, and we can ask them to come again. It's up to you.
What all does that entail? I'm clueless on the planning staff.
Yeah, well, they provide, so, and as you're here longer, you'll see all the items that hit our agenda that are things that the board of supervisors makes decisions about if someone wants to build a new house in the rural part of the county.
Oh, okay.
And so we currently contract with the City of Waterloo planning staff to provide those services for us because it just isn't efficient, I guess, for us to try to employ our own staff. They also provide building inspection services in the rural part of the county for us, and so it's just if you want to review,
Do we have any increases? They put in for any increases for this year?
not sure yet,
Oh.
I think planning's, their contract, they typically adjust up based on what their employment contracts are, so I imagine there will be a slight increase. And then it ends up, sometimes we don't even really need to increase our overall budget because the activity, well, you've got how much activities are gonna be in each year, that's difficult sometimes to predict, so. I think it's just if you want to hear from them, I'm happy to contact them. If we're comfortable not, then we won't.
Would it be helpful, Justin, for?
Yeah, but at the same time, if you guys are all familiar, I can always reach out and connect with them on my own too. I don't have a problem doing that.
Well, we're talking February, we'll have 2 new supervisors.
That's true.
Yeah,
And we have, obviously,
I'd like to have them come,
Yeah.
okay,
because there's been staff changes there too. And
Yeah.
that's true, they're kind of,
And like
Okay.
Matt lives in Emmer, so I'd like to see him even though he's dragging in. Is he
Well,
coming?
I keep telling him he is.
Depends on the day. He's busy, I can attest.
Yeah,
He,
yeah, for sure. And
he is very busy.
He's stepping up to the podium and.
Yeah, he prefers not to be a public speaker, I think is how, what I would say.
But he has a lot of
but
good information.
It's very good information.
Most of
and
us
I-
don't know as you do.
Yeah, Justin may be more into the services
Yeah.
he provides for the county than we are, but I think it's nice to have him come, even if it is a 10-minute visit once a year. So I'm working with him to get that done, we're working on that. Let's see. Soil and conservation, if you remember, they came and presented last year and requested an increase in funding. We're just in the process of getting them paid for that, but would you like to speak with, have them come speak with you? I'm sure they would be willing to if I reach out.
I think it's just good relationship wise.
And other, as I'll mention, other state departments, I don't know, before I was here, if you ever had the Department of Human Services come. We do provide facilities for them, so they do have an expense budget that we fund. Same with, a little bit with juvenile court services. We're required to provide their space, so, and you'll see that covered. For some reason, that one will be all covered in the maintenance budget. So there's a few things like that that I am not aware that we've historically had come and present.
HHS came, there were some years they did, but it was usually to talk about items they wanted to increase on their budget or have
They,
chairs, desks, that kind of thing. Otherwise,
they're not requesting any, well, maybe a couple $1,000s more literally, they're not requesting much right now, so.
I'm fine to forego it.
I mean, if anybody wants to, we can, but.
Yeah, I would
like,
say-
we always wait too.
In future years, when when there is a sizable increase that they're asking for, then
That's reasonable.
'Cause that's been a transition staff too.
Yeah, yes, it has been, yeah, it's been quite a transition.
And we don't know what to.
And they have more changes to come with all, what's coming down from the state, so.
Do you think they have any idea of what direction things are gonna go? Insofar as mental health regions or anything else?
Well, I'm not sure how they fit into the behavioral health, how connected they are to that. I know the county social services has concerns, and we do house them currently too. And we don't know if we'll need to house them July 1st, because there are huge changes in the mental health part, behavioral health. So as I understand it today, they believe they will still be here, the larger department, what we used to call Department of DHS. As I understand it, I believe they will still be here. Those are just,
Already had a meeting with them regarding the Pinecrest buildings.
right,
I would assume if he'd heard anything too, I don't see
yeah,
that.
it looks like it's worked out. I mean, Aaron sent their budget back right away, so
Yeah, I would like to, whoever's the lead point of contact over there, I'd at least like to be in touch with them about some things. Even if they don't come.
yeah, so we'll get that name. Okay. So at this point in February, I think by the 28th, maybe I will have a better sense of if we're gonna need to still try to have 2 meetings a week, or if stays alone, we will cover it. I'm not ready to ask that of you right now. But it might be good to try to keep if Thursdays continue not to be a good date in February, we should probably try to find another day, if we find we need to do 2.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody that gets ready, moving into a Tuesday or one of those dates, so we've got it there, if anybody can move up, or you see a topic that could go to another day too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any reports or information for the board? From the board?
None.
See you in a couple hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't need reminders of that.
How are you winning?
Are we winning?
Yeah.
And how can you help me? Or us? Yeah.
With a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Aye.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.